In 1977, the world was buzzing with excitement, change, and discovery. Technology was advancing at a pace never seen before. Humanity had already stepped on the moon less than a decade earlier, and space was no longer just the domain of dreams. It was slowly becoming a frontier of possibility. Against this backdrop, a remarkable mission was born, a mission that would not only push the limits of science and engineering, but also expand humanity's imagination about what was possible. That mission was Voyager, and Voyager 1 in particular would go on to become one of the most extraordinary ambassadors of Earth ever created. But before it became the legendary traveler of the stars that we know today, Voyager 1 began humbly as an idea, a simple question posed by scientists: what if we could explore the outer planets of our solar system in one grand journey? This idea came at a unique moment in time when the alignment of the outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, was about to occur in the late 1970s and 1980s. Such an alignment happens only once every 176 years, and it offered an unprecedented opportunity. With the right trajectory, a single spacecraft could use the gravitational pull of each planet to slingshot itself to the next, gaining speed while conserving fuel in a celestial game of dominoes. This concept, known as gravity assist, was not just clever, it was revolutionary. It meant that instead of needing massive rockets to carry endless amounts of fuel, we could use the planets themselves to propel a spacecraft farther than ever imagined. Scientists at NASA knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. If they missed this window, they would have to wait more than a century and a half to try again, and so the Voyager program was born. Voyager 1 was designed with care and precision, built not as a luxurious spacecraft with endless power and resources, but as a resilient, efficient machine with the ability to last far beyond its expected years. It was no bigger than a small car, weighing just over 1/800 pounds, with a large dish antenna for communication, scientific instruments mounted like tools on an explorer's belt, and radioisotope thermoelectric generators to provide power by converting the heat of decaying plutonium into electricity. In many ways, Voyager 1 was modest. Its computers were less powerful than the smartphone you carry in your pocket today. Yet, what it lacked in raw processing power, it made up for in reliability, ingenuity, and purpose. Engineers designed it to endure cosmic radiation, extreme cold, and the harshness of deep space. They built it not just to survive, but to thrive in places no human eyes had ever seen before. The mission goals for Voyager 1 were ambitious yet clear. It was tasked first with a flyby of Jupiter, the largest planet in our solar system, to capture detailed images, measure its magnetic field, study its atmosphere, and observe its many moons. After Jupiter, it would head toward Saturn, offering humanity its first close-up views of the planet's rings and its mysterious moon, Titan. Beyond that, Voyager's fate was open-ended. If it survived its encounters with these giant planets, it could continue its voyage, pushing into the outer reaches of the solar system, carrying with it not just scientific instruments, but also the curiosity of an entire species. At the time of its conception, no one truly knew how far it could go or how long it could last. Some thought it might die out after its primary mission, its batteries drained, its signals lost. Others dreamed that it could endure, becoming the first emissary of Earth to the stars. On September 5, 1977, Voyager 1 was launched from Cape Canaveral aboard a Titan, Centaur rocket. Just a few weeks earlier, its twin, Voyager 2, had already departed, but Voyager 1 was placed on a faster trajectory, ensuring it would overtake its sibling and reach Jupiter first. The launch itself was a moment of awe, not just for the engineers and scientists who had poured years of effort into the mission, but for humanity at large. Here was a small spacecraft, built by human hands, now leaving Earth with the promise of showing us places we had only glimpsed as distant points of light through telescopes. The excitement surrounding Voyager 1's launch was not just about science, it was also about hope and perspective. The late 1970s were a time of global tension, with the Cold War still casting its shadow. Yet here was a mission that transcended borders and politics. Voyager was not an American spacecraft alone, it was a spacecraft for humanity. The images it would capture, the data it would transmit, would belong to all of us. In that sense, its launch represented more than just technological triumph. It was a gesture of unity, a reminder that when humanity looks beyond itself, it can achieve greatness. As Voyager 1 rose into the sky, powered by the thunder of its rocket, its journey was just beginning. From Earth's perspective, it was heading into the unknown. The distances it would travel were staggering. Within weeks, it was already millions of miles from Earth. Within months, it was in regions of space where sunlight was just a faint glow compared to the brilliance we know here at home, and within a couple of years, it would be approaching Jupiter, ready to fulfill its first great mission. But even at launch, even in those early days, Voyager 1 symbolized something profound. It symbolized a leap of faith. The scientists and engineers who built it could only plan so much. They had programmed its computers, tested its instruments, and mapped out its trajectory, but once it was on its way, Voyager was on its own. Every command would take hours to reach it across the vastness of space, and every signal it sent back would arrive faint and delayed. It was like sending a child into the world with the hope that it would make its way, bringing back stories of what it discovered. The launch and mission goal of Voyager 1 were not just technical milestones, they were emotional ones. They reminded us of why we explore in the first place. It is not just about data or numbers or charts, though those are valuable. It is about wonder. It is about standing on Earth, looking up at the night sky and daring to ask, what is out there? Could we go there? What would it look like? What would it teach us about ourselves? Voyager 1 was built to answer those questions, and in doing so, it carried the dreams of millions. From the very beginning, Voyager's story was tied to the idea of legacy. The scientists knew that the alignment of the planets was rare, that the mission was bold, and that the spacecraft itself was fragile. Yet they dared to imagine that it might last longer than expected, that it might show future generations sights they could only dream of. The goal was not just exploration, but inspiration. Voyager 1 was launched not only to study planets, but to remind humanity that exploration is part of who we are. From the first time humans walked out of Africa to settle new lands, to the first time we built ships to cross oceans, to the first time rockets took us into space, we have always been voyagers. And now, with Voyager 1, we extended that spirit beyond our solar system. The launch of Voyager 1 in 1977 was the beginning of an extraordinary chapter in human history. Its mission goals, though defined and structured, carried within them the seeds of something far greater. It was more than a scientific mission. It was a statement that we are explorers, that we are curious, that we are willing to reach beyond our grasp to touch the stars. Voyager 1's launch was not just the story of a spacecraft leaving Earth. It was the story of humanity daring to dream bigger than ever before. And as it left our world behind, rising into the vastness of space, no one could have imagined that decades later it would still be out there, still traveling, still whispering back to us across billions of miles. No one could have foreseen that it would become the most distant human-made object, carrying with it a golden record of who we are, like a message in a bottle cast into the cosmic ocean. But even then, even at the very beginning, there was a sense that something historic was happening, something that would echo for generations. Voyager 1's journey began with a single launch, a single rocket lifting a single spacecraft into the heavens. But its mission goals, clear, ambitious, and filled with hope, set the stage for one of the most incredible journeys ever undertaken by humankind. When Voyager 1 left Earth behind and set its course toward the gas giants, humanity held its breath in anticipation. For centuries, Jupiter and Saturn had been objects of mystery, glimmering in the night sky as distant orbs that inspired awe and wonder. Telescopes, even the most powerful, revealed only hints of their true nature. Jupiter's swirling clouds and Saturn's shimmering rings had teased us for generations, but their details remained hidden, veiled by distance. Now, for the first time in history, a machine built by human hands was heading directly toward them, ready to reveal their secrets up close. It was a journey into the unknown, and the discoveries Voyager 1 made would forever change our understanding of the solar system. As Voyager 1 approached Jupiter in early 1979, the anticipation was electric. Scientists knew the giant planet was turbulent, with its massive storms and intense radiation, but they had no idea just how dynamic and violent its atmosphere truly was. When the first close-up images were transmitted back to Earth, the world was stunned. The great red spot, long observed from afar as a reddish oval, was revealed to be a massive storm larger than the Earth itself, churning for centuries in Jupiter's atmosphere with winds that raged at hundreds of miles per hour. But the red spot was not alone. Voyager 1 uncovered a world filled with countless storms, eddies, and swirling bands of clouds, each more dramatic than anything we had imagined. The sheer scale and power of Jupiter's atmosphere reminded us that our planet, with its calm blue skies and relatively mild weather, was but a fragile haven compared to the chaos of the gas giants. But the atmosphere was only the beginning. One of Voyager 1's greatest revelations was the discovery of active volcanoes on Io, one of Jupiter's moons. Until then, Earth was the only known world with active volcanism. The very idea that a moon orbiting Jupiter could be alive with eruptions seemed impossible. Yet Voyager 1's cameras captured towering plumes of lava and ash, some shooting hundreds of miles above the surface. The surface of Io was unlike anything we had ever seen, painted in hues of yellow, red, and orange, scarred by constant eruptions that reshaped its landscape in real time. This was a world in flux, a moon whose interior was heated by the gravitational tug-of-war between Jupiter and its neighboring moons, creating a level of geological activity unmatched anywhere else in the solar system. The discovery of Io's volcanoes shocked scientists and ignited new theories about how planetary bodies could remain active far from the warmth of the sun. It was a revelation that rewrote textbooks overnight. And Io was only one of the jewels revealed by Voyager 1. The spacecraft also gave us our first close looks at Europa, another of Jupiter's moons, with its smooth, icy surface crisscrossed by cracks and ridges. Though Voyager 1's data was limited, it raised tantalizing questions. Could there be a liquid ocean beneath that icy crust? Could such an ocean harbor life? These questions, sparked by the fleeting images from Voyager 1, would go on to inspire decades of future missions, each seeking to probe the mysteries of Europa and its hidden seas. Then there was Ganymede, the largest moon in the solar system, bigger even than Mercury, with its complex surface of craters and grooves, and Callisto, ancient and battered, bearing the scars of billions of years of cosmic impacts. Together, these moons painted a picture of a planetary system as rich and diverse as a miniature solar system of its own, each world unique, each offering clues to the processes that shape planets and moons. After its historic flyby of Jupiter, Voyager 1 set its sights on Saturn, arriving in late 1980. Once again, the spacecraft exceeded every expectation. Saturn, long admired for its rings, revealed itself to be far more complex than anyone had imagined. From Earth, the rings appeared smooth and uniform, like delicate bands of light encircling the planet, but Voyager 1 showed that they were anything but simple. The rings were intricate, made of countless particles ranging in size from grains of dust to boulders, each orbiting Saturn in a delicate dance governed by gravity. Within the rings were mysterious gaps, waves, and braids, patterns sculpted by the gravitational influence of Saturn's moons. The level of detail was breathtaking, transforming the rings from a distant curiosity into one of the most dynamic and fascinating features in the solar system. Saturn's moons, too, revealed wonders of their own. Among them, Titan stood out as perhaps the most intriguing. Voyager 1 flew close to Titan and discovered that it was shrouded in a thick atmosphere, denser even than Earth's, composed largely of nitrogen with traces of methane and other complex molecules. It was the first time scientists had confirmed that a moon could possess such an atmosphere, and it opened the door to questions about whether Titan might harbor conditions suitable for life, or at least prebiotic chemistry. Voyager's instruments were unable to see through Titan's thick haze, leaving its surface a mystery. But the mere discovery of such an atmosphere was enough to capture the imagination of scientists and dreamers alike. Titan became a world of possibility, one that would later inspire missions like Cassini and Huygens to probe its secrets more deeply. Voyager 1 also captured images of other Saturnian moons, each unique and fascinating in its own way. Mimas, with its massive impact crater making it resemble the Death Star of science fiction fame, Enceladus, a small, icy moon that would later be revealed to have geysers spewing water vapor into space. Dione, Re, Tethys, all of them revealed landscapes shaped by ice, rock, and time. The diversity of Saturn's moons echoed the richness of the Jovian system, reminding us that even the smallest worlds can hold surprises and teach us about the forces that shape the cosmos. What Voyager 1 accomplished at Jupiter and Saturn was nothing short of extraordinary. It transformed distant points of light into real worlds, each with its own personality, history, and mysteries. It revealed volcanoes on Io, potential oceans on Europa, complex rings around Saturn, and a thick atmosphere on Titan. It showed us that our solar system was not a collection of dead, static worlds, but a place of dynamism, activity, and wonder. These discoveries forced scientists to rethink what they knew about planets and moons, sparking new questions and fueling decades of future exploration. But beyond the science, Voyager 1's journey to the outer planets touched something deeper in the human spirit. When people around the world saw the first close-up images of Jupiter's clouds or Saturn's rings, they felt a sense of connection to something greater. For the first time, we were seeing worlds up close that had existed long before humanity and would continue long after. These images were not just scientific data, they were postcards from the edge of the solar system, proof that we had reached out across billions of miles and touched the unknown. They reminded us that the universe is vast, that there is so much more to discover, and that we are capable of reaching beyond our limitations to uncover its secrets. Voyager 1's discoveries at the outer planets also served as a humbling reminder of our place in the cosmos. Standing on Earth, it is easy to feel that our world is the center of everything, that the universe revolves around us. But when Voyager showed us Io's erupting volcanoes, Europa's frozen crust, Titan's thick atmosphere, or Saturn's dazzling rings, it made clear that Earth is not alone in its complexity or beauty. The solar system is filled with wonders, and Earth is just one of many extraordinary worlds. This realization did not diminish our planet. Rather, it elevated it, placing it in the context of a vast and diverse universe that we are privileged to explore. The discoveries of Voyager 1 at Jupiter and Saturn represent one of the greatest chapters in the history of science. They were the culmination of decades of work, the result of daring engineering, and the reward of human curiosity, but more than that, they were a gift to humanity. They showed us that we are not bound by the limits of our own planet, that we can reach across space and uncover the mysteries of worlds we once thought untouchable. They reminded us that exploration is not just about survival or utility. It is about wonder, inspiration, and the deep human desire to know what lies beyond the horizon. In the years since Voyager 1's flybys, we have sent other missions to the outer planets: Galileo to Jupiter, Cassini to Saturn, Juno to study Jupiter's interior, but Voyager's discoveries remain foundational. They were the first close looks, the first encounters, the first revelations. They opened the door, set the stage, and inspired everything that came after. They transformed the way we see our solar system and ourselves. And even now, decades later, the images and data from Voyager 1 continue to captivate, reminding us of the moment when humanity first reached out and touched the giant planets with its own creation. Voyager 1's discoveries of the outer planets were more than scientific achievements. They were moments of connection between humanity and the cosmos, between our curiosity and the universe's secrets. They were proof that when we dare to explore, when we refuse to accept the limits of what we know, we can uncover wonders beyond imagination. And they were a promise that as long as we keep asking questions, as long as we keep reaching, there will always be more to discover. When Voyager 1 completed its historic encounters with Jupiter and Saturn, most missions of its kind would have ended there, celebrated for their accomplishments, and quietly retired into history. But Voyager 1 was not like most missions. It was built with resilience, with longevity in mind, and with a curiosity that mirrored that of the people who created it. Once it had revealed the majesty of Jupiter's storms, the drama of Io's volcanoes, the delicate complexity of Saturn's rings, and the mystery of Titan's atmosphere. It continued forward, propelled not just by gravity but by human ambition. Its trajectory, set by the slingshot of Saturn's gravity, sent it on a new course. one that would carry it far beyond the outer planets, away from the warmth of the sun, into the cold, vast expanse of interstellar space. This phase of Voyager 1's mission was unprecedented. No spacecraft had ever ventured so far before. The distances involved were staggering. By the early 1980s, it was already traveling at over 38.0 miles per hour, fast enough to cover the distance between New York and Los Angeles in under 5 minutes. Even at that incredible speed, it would take decades to reach the edge of the solar system. But time for Voyager 1 was not a limitation. It was patient, steady, relentless in its journey outward. Each year it traveled hundreds of millions of miles farther from Earth, its faint radio signal taking longer and longer to arrive, but it remained steadfast, like a lone traveler crossing a desert with no map, yet with confidence in its direction. One of the key goals of this extended mission was to study the outer reaches of the heliosphere, the vast bubble created by the solar wind, the stream of charged particles flowing outward from the sun. Scientists wanted to know how far the influence of the sun extended, where the solar wind would finally give way to the interstellar medium, the thin soup of gas and dust that fills the galaxy. Voyager 1, carrying its suite of instruments, was perfectly placed to answer this question. As it moved farther away, it continued to measure cosmic rays, magnetic fields, and the density of particles, slowly painting a picture of the boundary between our solar system and the wider galaxy. The journey into deep space was not without challenges. Power was limited, drawn from the slow decay of its plutonium fuel. Engineers had to carefully ration the energy, shutting down instruments one by one over the years, ensuring that the most vital ones could keep running as long as possible. The spacecraft's computer systems, primitive by today's standards, had to be updated with clever workarounds to overcome glitches and the wear of time. Each command from Earth took hours to reach Voyager, and each response took just as long to return. Communication was like speaking to someone across an ocean, with long silences in between. Yet, despite the odds Voyager endured, it remained faithful, continuing to whisper back its discoveries across billions of miles. By the 1990s, Voyager 1 was already farther than any spacecraft had ever been. It had passed the orbits of Uranus and Neptune, though it had not flown by them directly as Voyager 2 did. Still, it pressed onward into territory where sunlight was no brighter than a distant star. It was during this time, in 1990, that Voyager 1 performed one of its most profound acts. At the request of astronomer Carl Sagan, NASA instructed the spacecraft to turn its camera back toward Earth and capture a family portrait of the solar system. Among those images was a tiny speck, barely a pixel in size, suspended in a beam of scattered sunlight. That speck was Earth. Sagan would later describe it as the pale blue dot, a humbling reminder of our fragility, our smallness, and our unity. From nearly 4 billion miles away, Voyager showed us our home in a way no one had ever seen it before, a dot adrift in the immensity of space. That image became one of the most iconic in the history of exploration, not for its scientific detail, but for its emotional impact. It was a mirror held up to humanity by a spacecraft leaving the cradle of our solar system. As the years turned into decades, Voyager 1 continued its slow journey outward. Scientists watched eagerly as it approached the outer boundary of the heliosphere. In 2004, Voyager 1 crossed what is known as the termination shock, the point where the solar wind slows down dramatically as it collides with the interstellar medium. Beyond that lay the heliosheath, a turbulent region where solar particles mixed with interstellar ones. Voyager 1's instruments measured these changes, providing data that no telescope on Earth could ever capture. For the first time, we were probing the edge of our solar neighborhood, feeling our way toward the boundary of the sun's influence. And then, in August of 2012, something historic happened. Voyager 1 crossed into interstellar space. It had traveled more than 11 billion miles from Earth, and its instruments detected a sudden increase in cosmic rays and a drop in solar particles. Clear signs that it had left the protective bubble of the heliosphere and entered the space between the stars. Humanity, through this little spacecraft, had officially become interstellar. It was a milestone that had long been dreamed of but never achieved until then. Voyager 1 had become the first human-made object to leave the solar system. The journey beyond the solar system was not just a scientific milestone, it was a philosophical one. For the first time, an artifact of human civilization was traveling through the galaxy, no longer bound by the gravitational pull of the sun. It was out there, alone but enduring, a symbol of human curiosity and resilience. Its radio signal, faint and delayed, still reached Earth, carrying information about a region of space no human had ever touched. It was like a scout venturing ahead into the wilderness, sending back reports to those who had stayed behind. As Voyager 1 moved farther into interstellar space, it continued to make discoveries. It measured the density of plasma in the interstellar medium, the strength of magnetic fields, the presence of cosmic rays. Each piece of data helped scientists understand not just our own solar system's boundaries, but also the environment of the galaxy itself. Voyager was no longer just a planetary explorer, it had become a galactic one, and through it we began to understand our place in the broader universe. What makes Voyager 1's journey beyond the solar system so remarkable is not only its scientific contributions, but also its endurance. Decades after its launch, with technology considered primitive today, it continued to function. Engineers at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory nurtured it like a fragile flame, adjusting its systems, conserving its power, and coaxing it to last as long as possible. It became a testament not only to the skill of its designers, but also to the persistence of human curiosity. Voyager's mission had outlived the people who had built it, outlasted the predictions of its lifespan, and surpassed every expectation. It had become more than a spacecraft. It had become a story, a legend, an enduring symbol of exploration, and there was another layer to its journey. Attached to Voyager 1 was the golden record, a message crafted by humanity to be carried into the stars. It contained greetings in dozens of languages, sounds of Earth waves crashing, birds singing, children laughing, music from cultures across the globe, and images of life on our planet. It was a time capsule, a cosmic greeting card, meant for any intelligent life that might someday encounter the spacecraft. As Voyager 1 left the solar system, it carried with it not just scientific instruments, but the essence of who we are. It became our emissary, our voice, our ambassador to the galaxy. Even if it were never found, the act of sending it was powerful. It was a statement that we, a species on a small blue dot, dared to imagine ourselves as part of a larger cosmic community. The journey of Voyager 1 beyond the solar system also carries with it a sense of perspective. It reminds us that exploration is not just about immediate benefits or practical rewards. Voyager will never return with samples. It will never be a vehicle for trade or commerce. Its journey is not about utility, but about meaning. It is about the deep human need to know what lies beyond, to stretch our minds and our machines into the unknown, to leave a mark not only on Earth, but on the cosmos itself. Voyager embodies that drive, showing us that even with limited technology, we can reach farther than we imagined. Today, as Voyager 1 drifts billions of miles away, still traveling outward at incredible speed, it continues to teach us. Its signal grows fainter with each passing year, and one day its power will finally run out. When that day comes, Voyager will fall silent, its instruments dark, its voice quiet, yet even then, its journey will not end. It will continue to drift through the galaxy, carrying the golden record, carrying the story of Earth, carrying the memory of a species that once dared to launch it. Long after our cities have crumbled, long after our sun has burned out, Voyager will still be there, silent but enduring, a tiny artifact of a civilization that once reached for the stars. The journey of Voyager 1 beyond the solar system is not just the story of a spacecraft. It is the story of us. It is the story of curiosity made manifest, of imagination made real. It is the story of how a species small in the scale of the cosmos, fragile in its existence, could nevertheless create something that left its home and stepped into the galaxy. It is a reminder that we are more than our conflicts, more than our limitations. We are explorers, we are voyagers, and like Voyager 1, our destiny is to keep moving forward, to keep asking questions, to keep journeying into the unknown. When engineers and scientists were building Voyager 1, they were consumed with the challenges of navigation, power supply, radiation shielding, and data transmission across billions of miles. Yet, in the midst of all the technical concerns, a remarkable idea emerged, one that would elevate the mission from a purely scientific endeavor to a profound cultural statement about humanity itself. That idea was the golden record. The golden record was not a scientific instrument. It would not measure magnetic fields, detect radiation, or capture images of distant moons. It had no practical purpose in terms of gathering data or extending the life of the spacecraft. And yet it became one of the most significant parts of the mission because it was designed not for us, but for whoever or whatever might one day encounter Voyager 1 in the depths of space. The golden record was, in essence, a message in a bottle cast into the cosmic ocean. It was a phonograph record made of copper, plated in gold for durability, and attached to the side of the spacecraft in a protective case. Etched into the case were instructions on how to play it, diagrams explaining the record's contents, and a pulsar map that could, theoretically, allow an extraterrestrial civilization to trace Voyager's origin back to Earth. Inside, the record contained an eclectic and carefully curated collection of sounds, images, and music from our world, chosen to represent the diversity of life and culture on Earth. It was a time capsule, a greeting card, a declaration of existence. It was our way of saying, this is who we are, this is our home. If you find this, know that you are not alone. The idea for the golden record came largely from Carl Sagan and his team, who had already worked on similar concepts for earlier missions. In 1972 and 1973, the Pioneer 10 and 11 spacecraft carried small plaques engraved with symbolic diagrams, simple depictions of a man and a woman, the location of our sun, and the outline of the spacecraft itself. These plaques were humanity's first interstellar calling cards, but they were limited in what they could convey. With Voyager, the opportunity arose to create something far more ambitious, something that could tell a richer story about life on Earth. Sagan and his colleagues, including Frank Drake and Ann Druyan, set out to design a record that could encapsulate the essence of our planet, not just scientifically, but emotionally. What they created was extraordinary. The golden record contained 115 images encoded in analog form, ranging from simple scientific diagrams to photographs of landscapes, animals, and human beings. There were pictures of DNA and cell division, of a mother nursing her child, of farmers in a rice paddy, of a schoolroom filled with students, of a rocket launch, of the Taj Mahal, of the Great Wall of China. There were images of trees, rivers, mountains, and deserts, alongside depictions of our solar system and mathematical concepts. Together, they formed a mosaic of life on Earth, from the microscopic to the monumental, from the everyday to the extraordinary. But the images were only part of the story. The golden record also carried sounds, recordings of the natural symphony of Earth. The chirping of birds, the rustling of wind, the crackle of thunder, the sound of footsteps on soil. There was the laughter of a child, the cry of a baby, the greetings of people in 55 different languages, each saying hello from their corner of the globe. Hello from the children of planet Earth, one voice said. In those simple words, a profound message was carried. We are here, we are many, and we are reaching out. And then there was the music. Perhaps the most powerful part of the golden record was its collection of music, carefully chosen to represent the breadth of human culture across time and geography. The selections ranged from classical masterpieces to folk songs, from the compositions of Beethoven and Bach to the lively rhythms of Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Good. There were Navajo chants, Peruvian panpipe songs, Indian ragas, Japanese shakuhachi flute pieces, and greetings in Morse code. The record carried the voices of humanity's creativity, the rhythms of its emotions, the melodies of its soul. Music, after all, is a universal language. Even if the beings who one day found Voyager could not see or speak as we do, perhaps they could feel the patterns of sound, the harmony, the passion embedded in those vibrations. Perhaps they could sense that behind those songs was a species that laughed, danced, mourned, and dreamed. The inclusion of the golden record was not without controversy. Some criticized it as unnecessary, a distraction from the spacecraft's primary mission. Others worried that it might expose us to danger, that if hostile beings encountered Voyager, they would know how to find us. But the team behind the record pressed on, driven by a sense of optimism and hope. They believed that reaching out was part of what made us human, that even in the vastness of space, we should not remain silent. And so, the record was affixed to Voyager, a shining disk that would outlast the spacecraft itself, traveling across the stars for billions of years. The golden record was more than just a collection of sounds and images, it was an act of humility. It acknowledged that we are not the center of the universe, that we are but one species on one planet orbiting one star among hundreds of billions. It was also an act of faith, faith that if there is other intelligence out there, it might be curious, compassionate, and capable of understanding. Faith that communication, even across the gulf of light years, was possible. And above all, it was an act of imagination. It forced us to ask, if we had only one chance to introduce ourselves to the cosmos, what would we say? What would we choose to represent our home, our lives, our culture, our values? The golden record was humanity's answer to that question. What makes the golden record so moving is not just what it contains, but what it symbolizes. It is not a perfect representation of Earth. It could never be. No single record, no matter how comprehensive, could capture the full diversity of our species or the complexity of our planet. But it is an honest attempt, a snapshot of who we are, a gesture of openness. It says, we are not hiding, we are here, and this is what life looks like on our small, blue world. It is an invitation, a greeting, a declaration that we are participants in the larger cosmic story. Imagine for a moment what it would mean if one day, millions of years from now, a distant civilization stumbled upon Voyager 1 drifting silently through space. Imagine them opening the case, examining the diagrams, decoding the record, and hearing, for the first time, the sound of Earth. Imagine them listening to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, to Chuck Berry's guitar riffs, to the sound of waves crashing on a shore. Imagine them seeing images of our landscapes, our families, our inventions. They would know that across the galaxy there existed a species that was small in scale but vast in imagination. A species that, though fragile and fleeting, reached out across time and space to say, we exist, we mattered, we dreamed. The golden record is as much for us as it is for them. It reminds us of our unity, of the shared heritage we carry as inhabitants of Earth. In a world often divided by conflict, borders, and differences, the record is a reminder that when viewed from the perspective of the stars, we are one. There are no nations in its contents, no flags or political slogans. Instead, there is humanity as a whole, presented not as fragmented tribes, but as a single species living together on a pale blue dot. The record asks us to see ourselves as we might be seen by others, small, fragile, yet capable of great beauty and creativity. Over the decades, the golden record has taken on a mythic quality. It is not just an artifact of the Voyager mission, but a symbol of human aspiration. It has inspired artists, musicians, writers, and dreamers. It has been reissued on Earth in vinyl form, studied in classrooms, and celebrated in documentaries. It has become part of our cultural memory, a reminder that even as we explore for scientific reasons, we also explore for spiritual ones. We want to connect, to reach out, to be part of something larger than ourselves. Voyager 1, carrying its golden record, continues its journey through interstellar space. It is likely that no one will ever find it, that it will drift forever, untouched and unnoticed, a silent ambassador to the stars, and yet the act of sending it was not wasted. It was an expression of hope, of optimism, of courage. It was a declaration that even in the face of the vast and indifferent cosmos, we chose to reach out rather than remain silent. We chose to tell our story. We chose to say, we are here. And perhaps that is the greatest legacy of the golden record. It is not about whether it is ever found, but about what it says about us. It says that we are a species that dares to dream, a species that builds machines not just to explore but to communicate. A species that understands the value of art, music, laughter, and love, and that believes those things are worth sharing with the universe. It says that in the end, what defines us is not just our science or technology, but our humanity. As Voyager 1 drifts farther into the cosmic ocean, carrying its golden message, it becomes a symbol of our collective spirit. It reminds us that exploration is not just about finding new worlds, but about expressing who we are to the universe. It reminds us that in the grand sweep of time, long after Earth itself may be gone, A small record plated in gold will still carry the sounds of our planet, the voices of our children, the music of our hearts, traveling endlessly through the stars. When Voyager 1 had completed its primary mission of exploring Jupiter and Saturn, its cameras had already given humanity images that had never been seen before. We had seen the swirling storms of Jupiter up close, the delicate structure of Saturn's rings, and the icy moons orbiting these gas giants. The spacecraft had exceeded expectations, and yet, before its cameras were finally turned off to conserve power, a request was made that would produce not just another scientific image, but one of the most profound, humbling, and poetic pictures ever taken in human history. That request came from Carl Sagan, and it became known as the pale blue dot. On February 14, 1990, more than 13 years after it had left Earth, Voyager 1 was over 7 billion miles away from home. From that vantage point, Sagan suggested that the spacecraft turn its cameras backward toward the tiny planet that had launched it. It was not a move that had any scientific purpose. The images would not tell us anything about geology, atmosphere, or magnetism. Instead, it would tell us something about ourselves. The spacecraft's cameras, designed to capture worlds many times larger than Earth, focused on the distant speck of our home. And what came back was breathtaking in its simplicity, a tiny dot no larger than a fraction of a pixel, suspended in a shaft of scattered sunlight. That dot was Earth, that dot was everything. At first glance it seemed underwhelming. It was not a dramatic image like the swirling colors of Jupiter or the rings of Saturn stretching like cosmic jewelry around a planet. It was just a pale bluish speck floating in darkness, but the meaning of it was staggering. That dot contained every mountain and every ocean, every city and every village, every person who had ever lived and died. Kings and peasants, warriors and poets, mothers and children, saints and sinners, lovers and enemies, all of them had lived their entire lives on that speck. The battles fought, the empires built, the discoveries made, the revolutions sparked, the works of art created. All of it had unfolded on that fragile point of light. Carl Sagan, reflecting on this image, delivered words that would echo through time. He reminded us that Earth is a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam, a tiny stage in the vast cosmic arena. He asked us to consider the arrogance of human conflict when viewed from such a distance. He reminded us that every war, every struggle for dominance, every persecution of one group by another, happened on that speck, which itself is dwarfed by the immensity of the universe. From billions of miles away, there are no borders. From that distance, there are no divisions of race, religion, or nation. From that vantage point, humanity is united, not in the ways we often imagine, but in our shared fragility. The pale blue dot forces us to confront the paradox of existence. On one hand, it shows us how small, vulnerable, and insignificant we appear against the backdrop of the cosmos. Earth, with all its beauty and complexity, is just a pixel lost in the void. The universe would not even notice if we vanished tomorrow. And yet, on the other hand, that dot is the most precious thing in the cosmos to us, because it is our home. It is the only place, as far as we know, where life exists. Every story ever told, every love ever shared, every hope ever nurtured has taken place on that dot. It may be small, but it is everything to us. Think about what it means to see Earth from that distance. For centuries, humans thought the Earth was the center of everything. Our ancestors looked at the sky and imagined the universe revolved around us. Later, we learned we were just one planet orbiting one star among billions, and yet, even with that knowledge, we still often see ourselves as central, as significant beyond measure. But the pale blue dot humbles us. It strips away illusions of grandeur and forces us to accept that we are not the masters of the cosmos, but its tiny participants. It is a reminder that humility should be part of our perspective as a species. And yet, the pale blue dot is not just about humility, it is also about responsibility. That dot is the only home we have. In the endless darkness of space, there is no second Earth waiting for us, no backup world to which we can retreat if we destroy this one. Every tree, every river, every cloud, every living creature is part of that speck. It is a fragile oasis suspended in a hostile void, and so Sagan urged us to cherish it, to preserve it, to treat it with care and respect. The image is not just a lesson in humility, but also a call to stewardship. If we fail to protect that dot, we fail ourselves. The pale blue dot is also a lesson in perspective. From close up, the world seems enormous. Our personal struggles feel overwhelming, our political divisions seem all-consuming, our conflicts appear inevitable, but from billions of miles away, those struggles vanish into irrelevance. The boundaries that divide nations are invisible. The quarrels that pit neighbor against neighbor mean nothing. What matters is that we share this tiny stage together. If we could carry that perspective into our daily lives, perhaps we would find more compassion, more understanding, more unity. The power of the pale blue dot lies in its ability to shift our consciousness. It is not an image that gives us new scientific data, but it gives us wisdom. It asks us to question our place in the cosmos, our priorities as a species, and the way we treat each other and our planet. It inspires awe, but it also inspires responsibility. It reminds us that exploration is not just about reaching out into space, but about learning how to look back at ourselves with new eyes. In the decades since that image was taken, it has become one of the most famous photographs ever captured. It hangs in classrooms, in museums, in books, and in the hearts of those who contemplate its message. It has inspired generations of scientists, thinkers, and dreamers. It has been quoted in speeches, documentaries, and essays. Its message is timeless. We are small, but we are not meaningless. We are fragile, but we are precious. We are temporary, but we are capable of greatness. Imagine again that pale dot. Imagine everything you have ever known compressed into that single speck of light. Imagine all of human history, every joy and every tragedy, condensed into something so small you could cover it with your fingertip, and then imagine that this dot, insignificant against the blackness, carries within it the potential for love, creativity, discovery, and meaning. That is the paradox of the pale blue dot. We are insignificant, and yet we are extraordinary. The image also connects deeply to Voyager 1 itself. That little spacecraft, built by human hands, sent back this perspective before its cameras were turned off forever. It gave us one last gift, a gift of vision, not just outward into the cosmos, but inward toward ourselves. Voyager had already achieved greatness by exploring distant worlds, but in that final look backward, it achieved something even greater. It gave humanity a mirror. It showed us who we are from a cosmic distance. It forced us to see that the story of Earth is a shared story, that our differences are small compared to what we hold in common. The pale blue dot challenges us to rise above pettiness. It challenges us to think not as citizens of nations, but as citizens of Earth. It challenges us to measure our worth not by our conquests or our divisions, but by our ability to live together on this fragile world. It challenges us to live with gratitude for the rare and precious gift of existence. Perhaps one day, far in the future, humans will travel to other worlds. Perhaps we will settle on Mars or build colonies in distant solar systems. Perhaps our descendants will look back on Earth not just as home, but as the cradle from which their journey began. And yet, no matter how far we travel, no matter how advanced we become, we will always look back at that pale blue dot with reverence. For it is the place where our story started. It is the place that nurtured us, the place that gave us the sky, the seas, and the soil beneath our feet. It is the place that gave us life. And so, as Voyager 1 continues its endless journey into interstellar space, that image remains with us. It is not just a photograph, it is a philosophy. It tells us to be humble, to be united, to be responsible, to be grateful. It reminds us that in the face of the vast cosmos, the only thing that truly matters is how we treat each other and the world we share. It reminds us that even though we are small, we are capable of compassion, beauty, and meaning. It reminds us that in the grand story of the universe, our chapter may be brief, but it can still be profound. The pale blue dot is a gift, a legacy, a lesson written in light across billions of miles. It is a reminder that when we look outward to the stars, we must also look inward to ourselves. It is a reminder that even in our smallness, we are capable of greatness if we choose to see ourselves as one. And it is a reminder that though the universe may not notice us, we can notice each other. We can choose to make our tiny dot a place of kindness, of beauty, of hope, and perhaps in that choice we will find the true meaning of our existence. When we speak of Voyager 1, we are not just speaking about a machine made of metal, circuits, and wires. We are speaking of a legacy, a creation that carries within it the imagination, curiosity, and courage of an entire species. Voyager 1 is not just a spacecraft drifting through the void. It is the embodiment of our desire to reach beyond what we know, to touch the unknown, and to leave a mark on the universe that says, "We were here, we dared, and we dreamed." Its journey is not only scientific, but symbolic. It is not only about the planets it passed or the dates it sent back, but about the inspiration it has given and continues to give to humanity as a whole. When Voyager 1 left Earth in 1977, it was not guaranteed to succeed. The challenges were immense. No spacecraft had ever traveled so far or attempted such ambitious objectives. Engineers and scientists built it with the technology of the 1970s computers, far less powerful than what we carry in our pockets today. Instruments designed with the hope that they would endure the cold, radiation, and distance of deep space. Yet, despite the limitations, the team poured their ingenuity into Voyager. They knew that if it succeeded, it would not only change our understanding of the solar system, but it would inspire generations to believe in the possible. And succeed it did. Voyager 1 sent back images that changed the way we see our cosmic neighborhood. It showed us the swirling storms of Jupiter with a clarity we had never imagined, revealing the Great Red Spot as a monstrous hurricane that had been raging for centuries. It showed us volcanic activity on Io, proving that moons were not just dead rocks but dynamic worlds. It revealed the intricacies of Saturn's rings, structures so delicate and detailed that they appeared almost like works of art painted across the heavens. With every image, with every piece of data, humanity's understanding of the solar system leapt forward. Children looked at those pictures and dreamed of becoming scientists, engineers, explorers. Teachers pointed to Voyager's discoveries as proof that curiosity can take us farther than we ever thought possible. But Voyager's legacy is not just in its discoveries, it is in what it represents about us as a species. At its heart, Voyager 1 is a story of courage. It is the courage to build something with no certainty of success, to invest time and resources into a mission whose results would not be fully known for decades. It is the courage to launch a spacecraft into the unknown and trust that it would carry the story of humanity into the stars. It is the courage to dream beyond the lifespan of those who built it, knowing that Voyager's journey would outlast the very hands that created it. That kind of courage is rare, and yet it is precisely what defines the spirit of exploration. Voyager's legacy is also about humility. As it traveled farther from Earth, it reminded us of our smallness. The pale blue dot image, captured by Voyager 1, is one of the most humbling photographs ever taken. It showed us that in the vastness of space, our planet is just a tiny speck, fragile and vulnerable. And yet in that smallness we found a profound truth, that what makes us significant is not our size, but our ability to reflect, to create, to imagine. Voyager 1 teaches us that our true greatness lies not in power or conquest, but in curiosity and wonder. And then there is the golden record, the shining disk attached to Voyager, carrying the voices, music, and images of Earth. Long after the spacecraft itself has gone silent, that record will continue to travel, carrying with it the legacy of humanity. It is our gift to the cosmos, our way of saying, "We were here, and this is who we were." That record may never be found, but its very existence is inspirational. It is proof that we dared to reach out, that we believed our culture, our art, our laughter, and our dreams were worth sharing with the universe. Voyager 1's legacy is not only scientific, it is human. It is cultural, it is emotional, it reminds us that science and art, logic and imagination can come together to create something timeless. Voyager has also given us a new perspective on time. Most of our creations last for years, maybe decades. Buildings crumble, machines break down, empires rise and fall, but Voyager 1 will outlast us all. For billions of years it will drift through the galaxy, long after Earth itself may be gone. It is, in a sense, our immortal ambassador. That knowledge forces us to think about the kind of legacy we want to leave behind. What will future beings, if they ever encounter Voyager, learn about us? What will they think of the species that sent this tiny craft into the void? It is a question that inspires us to be better, to live up to the hope and courage that Voyager represents. The spacecraft has inspired generations of scientists and dreamers. Many of today's astronomers, astrophysicists, and engineers trace their fascination with space back to the images and stories of Voyager. They saw those pictures of distant planets as children and thought, "I want to be part of something like that." The legacy of Voyager is not only in the date it sent, but in the spark it ignited in human minds. That spark continues to burn, pushing us toward new missions, new discoveries, new horizons. The rovers on Mars, the probes studying asteroids, the telescopes peering into distant galaxies, all of them, in some way, stand on Voyager's shoulders. Voyager 1 also teaches us something about perseverance. For nearly 5 decades, it has traveled farther than any human-made object before it. It continues to send signals back to Earth, whispering faintly across billions of miles, carrying data that scientists still study. The spacecraft has survived longer than anyone dared to hope. Its endurance is a reminder that great endeavors require patience, resilience, and faith. Voyager inspires us to persevere, to keep pushing forward even when the journey is long, even when the challenges are immense. The inspiration of Voyager is not limited to science. Artists, musicians, writers, and filmmakers have all been moved by its story. Songs have been written about it. Novels and poems have been inspired by it. Films have paid tribute to it. Why? Because Voyager 1 is not just a spacecraft, it is a metaphor. It is a symbol of human longing, of our desire to connect with something greater than ourselves. It is the embodiment of that restless spirit that refuses to stay confined, that always wants to see what lies beyond the horizon. Voyager 1 is a story, and stories are what move us most deeply. Its legacy is also deeply personal. When we think about Voyager, we are reminded of our own lives and journeys. Just as the spacecraft left home and ventured into the unknown, so too do we all face journeys into uncertainty. Just as Voyager carried with it a record of its origins, we too carry the memories, values, and lessons of where we come from. Just as Voyager continues to send signals across the darkness, so too do we send our voices, our love, and our influence into the lives of others, sometimes not knowing how far they will reach or what impact they will have. Voyager's story is not just the story of a spacecraft, it is a reflection of the human journey itself. The ultimate legacy of Voyager 1 is that it reminds us of what is possible when we choose to dream together. It was not the work of one person, one nation, or one generation. It was the product of collective effort, of scientists, engineers, and dreamers working side by side. It was the result of humanity at its best, collaborative, curious, creative. If we can build a spacecraft that travels beyond the solar system, carrying our message into the stars, then surely we can also build a future where we treat each other with respect, where we care for our planet, where we embrace curiosity rather than fear. Voyager inspires us to aim higher, not just in science, but in the way we live with one another. As Voyager 1 drifts endlessly into interstellar space, it carries no fuel to turn back, no way to return home. Its destiny is to continue forward, silent and solitary, and yet, in its solitude, it carries the voices of billions, the music of Earth, the story of humanity. That is its legacy. It is a reminder that even the smallest of creations can carry the greatest of messages. It is a reminder that our lives, too, can carry legacies of kindness, of courage, of inspiration. Just as Voyager will outlast us, so too will the influence we leave behind in the hearts and minds of others. Voyager 1 may one day go silent, its instruments will shut down, its power will fade, its voice will vanish from our skies, but even when it stops speaking, its story will not end, its journey will continue, a silent traveler in the great ocean of the cosmos. And its legacy will continue in us, in the scientists it inspired, in the dreamers it awakened, in the generations who will look back and say, "There was a time when humanity dared to send its voice to the stars." Voyager is proof that we are not limited by our present. We are capable of reaching farther, dreaming bigger, and leaving behind something that endures. So when we think of Voyager 1, let us not only think of a spacecraft. Let us think of a legacy that challenges us to be more than we are, Let us think of the inspiration that flows from a tiny craft billions of miles away, still whispering across the darkness. Let us think of what it says about us as a species, that we are curious, that we are daring, that we are dreamers, and let us remember that just as Voyager carries our story into the cosmos, we too are carrying stories into the future, stories that will define what our legacy will be. And perhaps one day, when humanity has traveled to new worlds, when we look back at our beginnings, we will remember Voyager 1 not just as a machine, but as a symbol of who we were and who we dared to become. Its legacy will live not in the cold silence of space, but in the warmth of our imagination. Its inspiration will not fade with time, because it is written not in metal or circuits, but in the very spirit of exploration that defines us. That is the true gift of Voyager 1, that even as it journeys alone, it carries us all with it.